Yesterday, we covered the space domain with the Peruvian satellite capabilities. Today, it is the turn of the air domain. For that, we have invited the Italian Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Mauricio de Guida, who will display the challenges and capabilities for air power effectiveness in the future environment, according to the Italian Air Force perspective. So please, let me welcome Lieutenant Colonel Mauricio de Guida. Good morning, Mauricio, or I would say good afternoon to you. I know that it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon in Rome.
Good morning to you from a beautiful day here in Rome. It's 15 o'clock here in Rome, so good morning.
Good morning, Mauricio. So before we start the talk, let me read some of your outstanding achievements. Mauricio joined the Air Force Academy in 1999, graduating as a class leader in 2003. Then he attended a pilot training school at Shepherd Air Force Base, United States, and he graduated distinguished graduate in 2004. In 2009, he was selected for Military Personnel Exchange Program to fly the A-10C as an instructor with the United States Air Force at Moody Air Force Base. Since 2016, he returned to the 32nd Wing as Chief of Wing Plans and Operations. Then he became the 13th Fighter Squadron Commander, flying the F-35's instructor pilot and successfully achieving the F-35 weapon system initial operation capability for the Air Force in 2018. He's currently assigned to the Air Staff since February 2020. He's responsible for policy making for air combat assets capability development and integrate air and missile defense systems. He's qualified on 8 different aircraft, including AMX, A-10, F-35, and he has more than 3,000 flying hours on fighter jets, gathering 600 combat flying hours in deployed real operations in Afghanistan, ISAF, and OEF. Mauricio, once again, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all the attendees of this conference, and thanks for the warm welcome to join for this important occasion, the 75th anniversary of the Peruvian Air War College, with this conference from the Italian Air Force. For me, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I hope we will meet your objectives and your curricula objectives, and we fulfill the expectations. As you said, I work in the Air Staff. I'm a Chief of Capability Requirements and Policymaker for Air Combat Assets and Integrated Air Missile and Defense Systems. So today I will brief you on challenges and capabilities for air power. I'll try to share my screen, and this will be the most difficult portion. If I can have a thumbs up that you can see and you receive audio and video loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Yes, you have thumbs up, Mauricio.
So for the next 40 minutes or so, I will talk about our perspective on challenges and capabilities for air power effectiveness in future environment. I can start and finish by showing this single slide, and because there are a lot of assumptions behind the title itself of the presentation. The biggest one is to know what is the future environment, and what needs to be done to be effective in air power. I have some microphone returns. I invite everybody to interrupt me anytime there is something that doesn't make sense, was not understood, or the audio was cut. In the meanwhile, to keep it in silent mode so we'll help everybody. Thank you. The agenda I'm trying to propose is to talk a little bit about the security environment. What is Italy concerned about that affects our security? A very quick overfly, Wikipedia style, on the Air Force, our core capabilities, our current operations, and challenges and opportunities, to show you a little bit of our strategic line of effort, where we are going as an Air Force and as an MOD in general. I will start with the security environment. To tell you a little joke, somebody once told me that Italy is one of the few countries that doesn't need to flip the globe around to appear in the middle of the world. Obviously, from every country's perspective, I would be curious to see from a Peruvian perspective how does the map shows. But we are in the middle of what we consider the West world and the Eastern world, cultures more than worlds. The north of the Europe to the south of Europe, and sometimes the south of the world itself. So our security environment is quite complicated, and we don't expect to be much better soon. Our two main pillars when it comes with the security is NATO and the European Union. So actually, Italy promotes a very wide, comprehensive security approach, very balanced among two main streams of thoughts. There is one stream that is very focused and concerned with the so-called Eastern flank, where obviously it shouldn't surprise anybody. There is a great power competitions discussion, and the international was there any question? I'm sorry.
No, it's on a hot mic, Mauricio.
No problem. So the Eastern flank, where great power competitions becomes more and more words that we keep hearing, and other countries that are much more concerned about the so-called southern flank, what's happening in the MENA region, in the Middle East and North Africa. And obviously I'm referring to phenomena such as terrorism, demographic trends, migration, and climate changes. So basically Italy is in the middle of these two streams, and we have an approach to security that is pretty balanced. Still, if we focus on our closest neighbors, the southern portion, there is what's called the pervasive instability. There is a regional instability in all Africa continent, especially in the Sahel region, that we think it's neighbor, but as you can see on the map, obviously we are talking about long distances. When we talk about Libya, Niger, Mali, Horn of Africa, it's 2,000 miles from our area of interest. So that has an impact on the Air Force, which is about high readiness posture to project their power on short notice and to long distances in the full spectrum of capabilities. I'm gonna highlight the three takeaways that are driving the Air Force strategy from now to the next foreseeable future. So if there is anything that can remain in your brain of all the slides I'm going to present, Italian Air Force is focusing on high readiness to project air power long distance in the full spectrum. In practical terms, what does that mean to us is we are increasing our air surveillance all around the Mediterranean arena. We have fighters on ground alert. There is no ocean separating us from threats. We have to keep focusing on ISR gathering and to exploit all that data that is more and more available. We have to protect remote installations, and we have to be concerned about air mobility of to and from theaters of operations. Now I will go so this is the security environment that we need to keep in mind when talking about our mission and our capabilities and our challenges. As far as the mission goes, we are the service provider together with the other joint components in the aerospace domain. I underline space because it's a very recent change in our doctrine. It's not only air domain, but aerospace domain. We will see a little bit later on what do I mean exactly. We have 4 missions, I would guess are pretty similar to the Peruvian MOD missions, which is Homeland Defense, defense of the Euro-Atlantic and Euro-Mediterranean, as I say, the 2 pillars, NATO and European Union. We contribute to the international peace and security, and I seen a message, somebody cannot see the PowerPoint. Is the PowerPoint going, or should I reset?
Yes, yes, Mauricio, I can see the PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, we have 24/7 duties, internal duties, especially contributing to disaster relief operations. Our organization, it's pretty common around bigger forces in the world. We have 3 main commands. So we have a chief of staff, 4-star general, and there are 3 main commands: the operational force command, logistic, and education and training. The operational force command has all the air assets, all the ground assets. It owns the forces, it trains the forces, employs the forces. The logistic command is the one that buys the material, keeps the material in good shape, and distributes the material to the forces that require it. And this is self-explanatory: education and training, from the recruitment of personnel and their education and training. As far as the who makes all the coordination among these commands is where I work. The air staff here in Rome that gives policy guidance on recruitment, on what type of capabilities we need, what material, and how we use those. So it's kind of the director of the orchestra. When it comes to single service operations, we also have, and we focus a lot on air operation, on command and control, and we do that via an air operation center when it's single service. Otherwise, we do to a joint operational command. Our pillars, we have 3 pillars: personnel, air systems, and infrastructures. Personnel, 40,000 men and women, between 500 and 600 aircrafts, and more than 200 infrastructures. Some additional details. We are all volunteers. 5% are of the military personnel, which is slightly below 40,000, are women. And we have also civilians in our Air Force structure. Here is one of our weak points. We are old. Our average is 44 years old. So I'm still younger for the Air Force. We have several hundred different qualifications to obtain and to keep alive. That gives troubles, of course, and it's a challenge by itself, because obviously some of them are very quick to obtain, others are very long, up to 7 years of training. So the return of the investment is quite low. We spend a lot to train people and less time to actually have them producing operations and generate effects where it's needed. Infrastructures, we are spread all over Italy, and we have 25 airports. The airport for us is the combat unit. The modular combat unit is the basic, and we have other 225 for a total of 252 sites all around Italy with a balanced footprint on the territory. What we are facing and we are going through is a constant reviewing of how to streamline and reduce the number of sites, because no surprise on that, the sustainability that is directly connected with the financial resources is always a factor and plays a huge role in what the Air Force would like to do and actually can do. Capabilities, we have some core capabilities that are directly connected with our missions. So starting with the Homeland Defense, integrated air and missile defense, air precision strike, obviously air mobility, and intelligence gathering, education and training. Obviously, we have additional capabilities. In Italy, Air Force is in charge of the management, together with the civilian agency, of all air traffic control, including the civilian ones. We are the service provider for weather. We are sitting 24/7 for search and rescue, and very often, I would say almost every day, we are actually in charge of emergency medical transportation across Italy. The next slide shows in a glance our current operations. We have, I should say actually 16 ongoing operations. It's written 17 because we just left Afghanistan. You may have seen on TV everything that's going on over there. But all the missions are under the NATO, UN, European umbrella. And what I like about this slide is to see our geographical area of interest that is balanced on the MENA region and in the Northern East Europe as well. Another aspect that I think is quite interesting is we are at 40,000, as I say, 40,000 personnel. Every day, we have approximately 10% of our personnel that is directly contributing to operations at home and outside Italy in other places of the world, which is quite challenging and gives a hard time to the personnel in the Air Force. As far as the current operations, one of the mission that we provide, in NATO, we are one of the major contributors as far as contribution, capabilities and cash. We contribute a lot with capabilities. Here there is an example, NATO air policing. We do every day through a standing NATO air policing, we provide air defense for neighbors countries such as Slovenia, Albania, and Montenegro, NATO members. And on rotational basis, we move, especially as you see in the North Atlantic area and the eastern flank, on Baltic, Eastern Europe, and Iceland for enhanced NATO air policing. Just for this year, to give you a rough idea, we are covering 11 months in those rotational bases out of 1 year, from January to November, with approximately 4 or 6 assets rotational between F-35 and Eurofighter F-2000. In the next section of the brief, I will brief you on main challenges and opportunities. Obviously, they are connected with our security environment, our future trends, and what we think are the core aspects that we need to highlight and focus on. We would start with cyberspace. It's a very pervasive and cross-domain by definition. For all components of the EDA MOD is obviously important for the Navy, for the Army. We think it's vital for the Air Force. First of all, because in our DNA there is the state of the art of technology, and we are on the leading edge, using everything that we use has a chip that is somewhere controlled by a computer inside. So for us, we believe it's vital, and we established several entities and agencies that are dealing with cyber in the full spectrum of their capabilities, obviously starting with the cyber defense to make sure that our resilience will be there when we suffer attacks from state or non-state actors around the globe. Aerospace domain physical expansion. We have a joke with our Army guys and our Navy cousins. Their domain has been 100% discovered. The land will not expand. Unfortunately for us, it's not the same. The air domain is expanding, because where we used to work around surface and 60 to 70,000 feet is not enough. All our systems, including flying effectors and very soon flying assets, are actually going and expanding, going above that line. So our new line of competence is set at 100 kilometers, the Kármán line, thanks to the technological progress, obviously. And above that, so at 100 kilometers is where we have this line, the Kármán line, where the aerospace domain ends, but we have a close look towards the space, which is a joint domain by definition, but has a technological and physical contiguity with the aerospace. So that's why the Air Force looks with interest, and in order to provide homeland defense security, obviously we are putting a lot of effort on projects that are dealing with space. Talking about those, we are developing with the industry and other European or NATO partners high altitude platforms. We are collaborating with the industry, for example, Virgin Galactic for suborbital flights and human space flight. We are dealing a lot with space weather, and obviously, last but not least, we are increasing our network of sensors for the space surveillance, tracking, awareness and tracking. Multi-domain operations. What we became as a NATO, more than as an Air Force alone, became pretty good at was to synchronize effects among the 3/4 domains, and to establish during an air campaign or in a joint operation who is supporting and who is supported. So we became pretty good to synchronize and deconflict effects. What we need to work on is to integrate those effects. What does that mean, multi-domain, to us? Is basically be able to establish and keep in command and control near real time that connects the right sensor to the right effector across the 5 domain. What does that mean? If an airplane sees a target from 60 miles through a sensor, that information needs to be available also to maybe a special operation that is just a couple of 100 meters away and has to be all a digital flow. And we have to be able to exercise and do near real-time command and control to make sure that we actually achieve effect integration. 5th gen effective training and integration. I'm pretty proud as an Air Force that we were the first country outside continental United States to acquire and employ F-35. F-35 has been a game changer for the Air Force, the way we train and the way we employ, but obviously it came with a challenge. The first one was how do we integrate with the legacy system? Because obviously 5th generation is changing the way countries deliver air power, but they will remain a minority in the big, in the quantity of legacy systems around NATO. So what we think is 5th generation can bring can be a force, a task enabler, obviously for the simple reason that we can provide valuable information that were not available to legacy systems before, that will increase legacy system awareness and then performance. A legacy system will remain a legacy system, but has more information, so it will improve the capability that can provide. That's what we mean for task enablement. And it's a force multiplier, very connected to this point. Obviously, the challenge is how we train with stealth aircraft that are such a game changer. We want to also protect those capabilities, and we are investing a lot on new type of training, starting from what we call the baby pilots. We are using extensively modern system for training that have built-in LVC capabilities. So combining live, meaning real airplane, real pilots, with the virtual real pilots in simulators, and constructive fake pilots into fake airplanes, computer-generated entities. We are combining all those, and we have an ongoing project that is a very ambitious, very expensive, but very high priority in the Air Force, which is so-called OTI, Operational Training Infrastructures. Basically, we are connecting these 3 worlds for day-to-day training into our airspace, where we also exercise real command and control on the entities that are maybe in simulators or entities that are computers. And we are integrating fake air defense systems with the real systems, with fake airplanes, with real airplanes, simulators, and so on. We actually just did what was the major Air Force event this year. Was in June. Falcon Strike was the first F-35 and 5th generation multinational event, which was quite interesting for the Air Force. And we think that's a challenge, but is also an opportunity, because advanced capabilities require advanced trainings for the future context. Last but not least, we are trying to fuse into the integrated air and missile defense the problems of the drones, from mini, micro class to the more challenging drone swarming. And we are trying to establish what is the line between point defense and aerial defense from a drone, because obviously it's a low cost, low technology that has a high impact. And so it challenges our defense system, and we are trying to deal with this challenge. In the next and last section of this brief, I will talk a little bit about strategic lines of effort of the Air Force. So you remember those three keywords that were in the security environment. And here is how do we fix those problems. We think that the speed of change of things in the world has a huge impact on the military structure. We cannot remain the way we are. We have to adapt. We have to be agile. And the two keywords are modularity and scalability. We have to be ready for all the spectrum of things that are required. We say it's a slogan, but actually it's a significant one. Fifth generation of the entire transformation of the entire Air Force. What do we mean about that? As I said, the F-35 was a game changer, has been a game changer. We've been flying that in Italy for 5 years now. And we actually learned a lot, and we are learning day by day how to better use it. But it's not only about flying the airplane. Actually, that's the easiest portion, is to use that. And for the entire Air Force to be able to reach a next level. This is a never-ending cycle. It's a stairs that it's a spiral that is a spiral up that goes three main lines of effort. One is definitely mindset and training. We need to train our airmen to face the complexity and being able to take good decisions into the unknown. Because there will be a lot of unknowns around there. The second one, to do those multi-domain operation, actually evolving from a doctrinal aspect, is the joint all-domain operation, is connectivity. We have to connect everything to everything, which comes with an interoperability challenge to design new systems interoperable with the previous ones. Last but not least, security and resilience, because there will be challenges out there that will try to stop us. So we need to protect our data, we need to protect our forces, and when an attack comes, we need to be able to be resilient and react appropriately towards the joint all-domain operations. So, a very quick look on our projects for the next 15 years. And when it comes to fighters, we envision to have F-35s and F-2000 as backbone of air combat capability from the Air Force. The F-35 is especially required for the land-based expeditionary capability to project short notice, long distance with the limited logistic and generate effects in the full spectrum of the air capabilities. And we are already working on the next biggest program for the next 20 years, Future Combat Air System Tempest. I will have a slide on that later on. Multi-crew, air-to-air refueling is enabler because we have to go long distance. Obviously, that comes with tactical, medium and light transport, plus all air command and control and tactical air control command systems, SIGINT assets, and so on. Rotary wings, modernizing our fleets. We have the first two already in line, the 101 and the 139 for search and rescue and combat search and rescue. And we are working on fast future rotorcraft. Airpass, remotely piloted air systems. We operate MQ1s, MQ9s, and we are taking new ones that are Falco Explorer and a European medium altitude long endurance Airpass system. Integrated air missile defense, short range, medium range, and long range. But what concerns us is also ballistic missile defense in the lower layer of the atmosphere with sensors in the upper layer of the atmospheres and counter unmanned air systems. We have point defense systems that are already our force protection forces are already provided with. We're looking for other type of solutions as well, not available there. We have an eye on space, as I said, on stratospheric systems and cooperation between public and private partnership with industries, such as Virgin Galactic as an example. And we always focus, since training is a focus for the Air Force, on trainers with a very, I'd like to be very humble on this presentation, but I think we have the biggest fleet and the best fleet when it comes with the training value with very advanced trainers such as the 345 and the 346. Very well suited for all type of aircraft, especially air combat assets such as F-35 and F-3000. FCAS Tempest, we are into the program for 3 years now, as far as statement of intents, but now we are putting money. So this year, last year, 2020, we signed a memorandum of understanding together with the United Kingdom and Sweden, and we are basically partners in developing the next future air combat system, so-called Tempest. A quick glance of what do we mean with Tempest. So on the concept, and I will start from the bottom left, is all domain. As I said, we are overly concerned to integrate all 5 domains, and we need to have systems that are able to work on those domains. So the FCAS Tempest needs to be able to be connected to the land, sea, space, cyber, and obviously the air domain as well. We know that enabling technology will mature year by year. So in order to incorporate and adapt very fast, very quick to deliver air power in all full spectrum, it needs to be an open system architecture. We cannot afford anymore the time that used to be required for all systems going through a midlife update that were keeping years. We need to make sure that we can have new capabilities delivered right away in an airworthiness fashion as soon as they are available. That's the way to be competitive. Obviously, network enabled, that is self-explanatory. I need to connect everybody and everything to everybody else and everything else. And we don't want to think about Tempest like an airplane or an air combat vehicle, but as part of system of systems, where maybe I will have some we called adjuncts with manned, unmanned teaming. And the airplane itself is a piece of the puzzle that will provide information and effects to the decision authority required. Very ambitious timeline. We signed the memorandum of understanding. We are now working. I am a member of the Team Tempest. We are working in very close coordination with our partners for the concept and assessment together with the industry. So industry is not on the other side of the road. We are on the same side, and we need to make sure that we ask what we need, they understand, they fully understand what we need, and they give us a reality check on what are the actual technology availables and the work on developing new ones. So it's a constant loop to make sure that we have the state of the art of the emerging technologies available right there to be implemented. There are going to be a prototyping around 2025 and then the production phase to have an initial operational capability in 2035 when is the phase out of a Typhoon Eurofighter, the kickoff of the phase out of a Typhoon Eurofighter. So what? And I have other 5 minutes left. Air power effectiveness in future environment. Well, we don't know what the future environment is. Nobody knows. We can try to predict, but when I was studying leadership and strategic analysis in my master's degree, there was, okay, the only way to predict the future is to cause the future or to be ready for everything. There is no way you can predict the future, and military used to prepare for the last war and not the next war. Since we don't know what the future environment will be, we will keep facing a dilemma. Quantity versus quality. A professor, a strategic teacher, used to say, quantity is quality by itself. And I kind of like that sentence. We need to focus on state-of-the-art technology, but we need to make sure we never go below a critical mass of piece of equipment and resources, including human resources. The end state is to deliver operational output. So what do we need? Since we don't know what the future environment is, what do we need? We need to be effective. Well, that's self-explanatory, right? But how do we get effectiveness? We think we need to be modern systems. We need to have modern systems. In one of the movie of the Western movie is when a man with the gun face a man with the rifle, the man with the gun is a dead man. So that's why we keep saying that modern systems are required in the future environment, whichever it will be. And we need to be able to exercise an effective command and control on all domains, because we need to be able in the OODA loop, we need to be able to be what we say inside enemy targeting cycle. How do we do that? Being agile. Easier said than done, but I think the only way is to start with modularity and scalability. We need to be very able to adapt to the requirement and change the shape and the size of our forces wherever they are required. I think COVID gave us a pretty good chance to exercise this. We had to move people around from several hospitals, and in less than 1 week, we actually tested and certified the bio. We certified a lot of air transport systems that were bioprotected. And we changed the job description of people to make sure they were able to provide where they were asked to. Last but not least, resilience. We will not be perfect. We will not be unbeatable. We need to make sure that we have the proper mindset and the proper training to react to attacks and make sure we can continue to operate. And it's 15:44. 8:44 Peruvian time. So that concludes my brief. I'm open to take any question. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mauricio. Great presentations. So now, to the attendees, we are going to start the Q&A, which is a questions and answers station. So we are going to do it in order, and we will use the raise hand option that we have on the platform. So you just need to mention your name, your service, and your question.
¿Está prendido mi micro o no? ¿Cómo hago para volver?
All right. So we have a question. Major General Colonel Bracamonte. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel De Guida. First of all, thank you very much for such a relevant exhibition. My question is how much Italy has developed its multi-domain command and control doctrine, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. If I understood correctly, you're asking more details on our effort on multi-domain operations. Was that right? I had you broken.
Colonel Bracamonte, can you rephrase your question, please? So would we better understood?
Okay. My question is, how much Italy has developed its multi-domain command and control doctrine?
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thanks for, and sorry for rephrasing the question. Your microphone was broken. I had it broken initially. As I said, is one of our main challenges. But the first step to fix a problem is to recognize you have a problem. And we have an Italian Air Warfare Center, which studies doctrine, and no secret on that. We compare with other allies, partners, and we see what's going on. So we follow the ongoing trends also from other countries. No surprise, United States is leading a lot the doctrine on multi-domain operations, but we embraced recognizing the value of those doctrinal aspects. We embrace the challenge. We tried to come up with a solution on how to achieve multi-domain operation. Nice concept. I want to connect everything to everything, but how to? So the way we do it, and I will be very, very brief. You tell me if you actually prefer more details, if I'm able to answer, is to every system we acquire goes through a so-called .mil PFI process, from doctrine, the type of material, the interoperability, the organizational aspects, and how we do command and control. And from a technical standpoint, how much is it interoperable? Interoperable, I mean, does it fulfill all the standards? Is it plug and play with the existing structure? And if the answer is no, we investigate if that's the solution we need. I may have I can have a future combat air system, but if it's not able to talk and operate with the existing forces, it will not be valuable. That's for the connectivity piece. The multi-domain, the command and control, which is the other aspect. So the technical aspect, it comes by design. We try to get things that are interoperable, or to make operational requirements that from a technical standpoint are already interoperable. when we acquire the thing, the airplane, the pen, the computer, whatever it is, when we acquire it, we go through an operational testing and evaluation to make sure that it's ready to be delivered to operational forces and to the operational command. Once that is done, we have to exercise with the training the multi-domain operations. We focus a lot on command and control. As I said, 3 main commands, but we have a 2-star general that is in charge of the Air Operational Center, and it is a strategic entity inside our Air Force to make sure that everything that moves from the single airplane that is doing a local sortie, a local flight for training, taking off from his own home base, landing on his own home base, or to the airplane that is on the other side of the world, taking people from Kabul or bringing goods and helps to the other side of the globe where an earthquake has been. We exercise close command and control on that. When things don't go well, we take note and we go through a lesson learned process, which is a very well established procedural step. And if the command and control was not effective, that is a major item and we focus on that. So to keep it short, there are 2 aspects: the technical aspects that comes with interoperability and the training aspects, which after an operational training and evaluation comes with the employment of the air systems or the ground equipment, whatever it is. I hope I answered your question.
Morning.
Thank you, Mauricio. Next question, Colonel Fernando Guaman.
Hello, good morning, Lieutenant Guida. Thanks for the very excellent presentation. My question is about participation and main responsibilities of the Italian Air Force in joint operations with the Army and with the Navy, and within the air domain and within the inside or outside of your country. Thanks.
For the sake of time, I'll try to be very brief so we can give room to other questions, but excellent question. Thank you, sir. It's a pretty NATO standard, I could say. So we have an internal chain of command. Our Chief of Defense is also the command-in-chief of all and has operational command of all forces. And he exercises his OPCOM through the joint command, joint operational command. So what we do, we transfer the authority of our forces for single service operations. The child gives us the OPCOM of our forces, and we exercise that within the Air Force. The majority of operations are joint operations. So we transfer the authority of we transfer our forces through a transfer of authority process that goes to the joint operational command. And if it's a mission that is under the umbrella of UN or NATO or EU, there is a delegation of the forces from the joint command to the joint force commander, for example, the JFC within NATO, just to give an example. So it's a pretty NATO standard command and control and the transfer of authority of operational forces. The majority of our internal operations are joint by definitions, but as I said, the Air Force is mainly directly connected with the internal police, for example, internal employment of our UAVs with the Minister of Interior, and that is through joint operational command. I hope I answered your question.
The space domain, what about the satellites controls, or maybe, I don't know, joint control of satellites, please?
Thanks for giving me this opportunity to specify and highlight. Space, so aerospace is under Air Force umbrella. The space above 100 kilometers is a joint environment. So there is a joint space command at joint staff level, which is under the umbrella of the commander-in-chief. So the joint force operational command. Yet we have a physical contiguity, a natural competence towards the space. So there should be no surprise in that command that is outside the Air Force, is on the Joint Command. I don't want to give a number, but I think more than 90% of people working in that command are Air Force personnel. So it's joint under the Joint Staff with Air Force experience for obvious reasons.
Much, Guido.
All right. So Mauricio, we had 2 more questions. So Jorge Cornejo.
Thank you, Jesus. Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel Mauricio Guida. Thank you so much for your brilliant presentation. How do Italy, as a NATO country, perceive the entering of Colombia as a NATO partner? And due to the long-standing relation between our countries, Peru and Italy, what are the challenges that you can identify in Latin American air forces? Thank you.
I understood the first part. On the second part, I didn't receive you very well. So I will answer the first part. Obviously, I apologize. You're gonna not like this answer. I talk about military. I don't talk politics. I am the long arm of the politics and the other voice of diplomacy when the other arm doesn't work anymore. So as a NATO member, this is a personal view, not an Air Force perspective. Obviously, NATO is such an enduring organization that is now going through 72 years almost. I think the collective defense behind that and the focused aspect of what we are doing together, who we are fighting or we are ready to fight as a collective defense, that was the reason of this enduring alliance. Had a clear-cut objective, a clear mission, a clear objective that made it work so far and is I think the longest enduring alliance in the history. Obviously, when it comes to politics, I'm unable to answer. The more, the better, I should say. In the same time, if you enlarge to a point where you lose the identity and the reason behind the fact that you wanted to be together for something that was in common, that would make losing meaning to an alliance. I apologize if I've been a little bit nebulous on this answer, but I hope I gave you a flavor.
No, that's fine. Thank you. And regarding the challenges that you can identify in Latin American forces, please.
So what are the challenges in Latin American and what is our opinion on that?
Yes, please. Due to the close relation that we have a very long-standing relation between Italy and Peru, and especially, after, the quarantine training of our personnel, for the C-27G Spartan, and what are the challenges that you can identify, maybe if you have that perception of what are the challenges that you can identify, as a, like a NATO country, in our Latin American Air Forces.
I apologize. I'm not able to properly answer this question. What I know for sure is our brilliant relationship among our countries. You mentioned the C-27, and I hope there's going to be even more when it comes with training. We have a good relationship because maybe we have similar cultures. that we can enforce our relationship. Honestly, I don't have a concern about American Latin countries, so I would be unable to answer your question because I lack this perception that you are referring to.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Next question, Colonel Campos. Christian Campos.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Colonel De Guida. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, congratulations for your outstanding presentation, and thank you very much for being with us today. To be honest, I had to change my question because the first idea had a political part, but after your last answer, I want to rephrase my question. A few days ago, we received a conference, and as my limited understanding, I heard that we cannot have any kind of weapons in space. Now, I heard that there is a kind of self-defense weapon authorized to be in the space. So my question, my specific question is, can you tell us what's the limit of this kind of weaponization of space in the NATO environment? Self-defense, you can take a laser gun, a laser weapon, or it's just a kind of anti-missile defense like a Star Wars system implemented by the US in the 80s. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I didn't answer a political question, but now I'm giving a political answer. Space has been declared a domain in 2019 by NATO. The assumption is we will not militarize space. So we don't want to do something that will go out of control. But in my background, I also studied philosophy. And there was a teacher that told me, once a technology will be available, somebody will use it. Regardless if it's ethical or not, despite the fact it's good or bad, somebody will use it. So our assessment on space is used to be a kind of civilian environment just for communications. But I watch TV as you all do. And something that used to be something, a domain where humans were not even allowed and seemed some heroes, the one going to the space, now you can pay a ticket and you are in space. There are already effectors that travel through the space. As an Air Force, one of the objectives is to provide homeland defense. If something is coming and traveling through the space, I need to be able to detect, to track the position, ID, and eventually defend myself. So I don't know what is going to be the technology behind the space. Maybe movies from the early 80s or 90s may have better answers. But what I do know is we want to be ready to protect ourselves from anything, even if it's coming from the space. The first step is space surveillance. Definitely, I can tell you that we are investing and we have a lot of projects on this. I'm not talking about militarization. And if you understood that from my brief, thanks for the question and thanks for giving me the opportunity to rectify and highlight that when I talk about space, I'm not talking about militarization. Personal perspective, if a technology will be available, somebody will use it. So we better be ready to face it.
Thank you very much. That was a very political answer and a very clear answer. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mauricio, does your agenda accept a couple of more questions?
Absolutely. I will be glad if I'm able to answer. I will always answer in a honest fashion. If I'm unable, I will tell you that I'm unable, either because it's not in my sphere of competence or maybe because I don't know it. So we have other 10 minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate your sincerity. Okay, next question. Colonel Abad, Pedro Abad. Good morning, sir. Are you with us? Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Lieutenant Colonel De Guida. Many thanks for your interesting presentation. I have a question. Having in mind the organizational structure of NATO, could you tell us a little about what will be the main principles or the key points for the transformation of Italian Air Force as part of your contribution to NATO's environment, having in mind the main two important commands in NATO's organization as are the Allied Operation Command and the Allied Transformation Command. Many thanks.
Okay. I'm not sure I understood correctly your question. You may, if you may be so kind to actually try to write the question, I'll try to give you a better answer. I understood how we are following the transformation of NATO and the doctrinal aspects, because I apologize, sir, I didn't understand very well your question.
My question is regarding the key points for the transformation of the Italian Air Force as part of the NATO's environment. It means maybe in 10 years or 15 years, what will the new capabilities as part of your contribution to NATO?
Okay, NATO is one of the two commands of NATO, ACO and ACT. Obviously, the ACT is very focused and concerned with the transformation. What I really like is their products that I follow very closely is the strategic analysis and framework for strategic studies in the foreseeable future, looking for future trends. I think it's a very, very high value studies and products. But when it comes to the future, nobody has the crystal ball, right? Everything we thought it would happen eventually was completely different from the prevision. And we cannot predict the future, but we can look back at the history. No, there is no way you can drive your car by looking at the mirror glass. So you cannot just predict trends that started in the past. But what we think is important is to use all the tools that are becoming available, and are not only military tools, are mainly civilian tools that can help us to dig into data and see first signs of changes. Those huge big data and big data analysis can help us to predict what's about to happen. Not what will be in 15 years. Who could predict 15 years ago that smartphones would be necessary to live? Without a smartphone, I'm lost. And actually, it's a technology that is out there. The first smartphone was an iPhone, I think around 2004, 2005. There is no way we can predict what is going to be in 15 years. We can make assumptions. And that's what the Italian Air Force and the Italian MOD is doing, making some assumptions. We do believe that we are not optimistic. Things will not improve. Complexity is there. And we spent 400 years, I say, from 1648, Westphalia, to build boundaries. And it took only a couple of decades to destroy boundaries. The globalization, the non-state actors that with low cost have such high impact technologies. So what we are trying to do is a pragmatic approach to the future. We don't know the future, we need to be ready to face the future. That's why agility, modularity, scalability, high-end technologies, good training, modern assets are required to face the future challenges. I hope I understood well your question and I answered to the best of my capability.
Many thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Next questions from the high staff course is major size.
Good morning, sir. This is Major Ricardo Sáez from the Peruvian Air Force.
Yes, please go
Hear me?
ahead. Do it was a hot mic.
Okay, thank you. Sir, last month, southern Italy suffered wildfires, burning thousands of acres of land and even causing deaths. I read that the Italian government asked European states for help, and even Canada sent some firefighter aircrafts. My question is, does the Italian Air Force own an aerial firefighter force for these natural disasters? If so, how do you get trained? Thank you very much.
So thank you for your question. Yeah, it was a sad moment, to be honest. Very hot summer. So climate change is not just something on the newspapers. It's actually here. For us, summer is over. For you, is about to come. So lucky you guys. But other than this, one of our fourth mission is to contribution for disaster relief. It's not only about earthquakes or flooding, but also for the firefighting, for example. The first answer is no, Italian Air Force does not own firefighting assets. We used to have in the past. Our C-27 were equipped, it was actually not the C-27, the G222 had a pallet, a modular assets inside the cargo bay to actually do firefighting. But now is the there is a civilian agency that deals with Canadair and other assets to do firefighting. The Air Force, though, has experience on that and has experienced pilots. So, for example, we had a cooperation with this civilian agency providing part-time pilots to the civilian agency to fly their own Canadairs or their own Pilatus, other type of firefighting vehicles, because what I learned that doing firefighting, it's like doing combined air operations with very similar fighter bomber attack techniques. You are actually bombing your own territory with water. Actually, we used our expertise. We do contribute as of today as well to firefighting. The most important portion, I don't know if you work in that segment, is the reaction time. If you find, fix, detect a fire location and you react very quick, is the most effective way to shut down the fire before it gets spread out and then becomes very, very difficult to work against it. So with our helos that are in search and rescue 24/7 alert, our crews, part of our crews are trained, and helos, the 139, for example, are equipped with, and I don't know the English word, honestly, but with a bag, I should say, with a bag that brings water. So our search and rescue helo, for example, are also equipped and trained and are doing ground alert to contribute to the firefighting. But so short answer is not a capability that the Air Force keeps. It's a civilian agency, but the Air Force shares expertise as required pilots, and we have our assets that are equipped to contribute to the firefighting capability.
Thank you very much. I think the word that you were searching for was bucket.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Finally, well, all the questions are Colonel Melgar. We go with the last questions that will be Colonel Melgar in charge.
Lieutenant Colonel Villa, thank you for your presentation. I have two questions about the movement. One of the most challenging things.
I have you very weak, 1 by 5, sir.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. One of the more challenging things about the movement is the way that people think, make decisions, and act. And in this new, complicated, and developing kind of operations. What is the perspective of Italian Air Force over the decision makers' preparation and training?
Ahí porque tiene que jalar un poco el capitán Castillo, creo, para que entre ahí usted.
No, yo estoy pasadito nomás, voy a una comisión.
We have a hot mic, please. Colonel Melgar, can you rephrase a question because there was broken and or I didn't hear it well, so Mauricio couldn't either.
Okay. One of the most challenging things about multi-domain operations is the way that people think, make decisions, and act in this new, complicated, and developing kind of operations. What is the perspective of Italian Air Force over the decision makers' preparation and training?
Now I understood. Thank you, sir. That is a very, very interesting. As I said, we are 44 years old average, right? I'm in the average. So I have my leadership that is older than me, and there are also younger. I think it's a cultural problem. One of the main challenges for proper multi-domain operation is not only the technical aspects, which plays a huge deal. Connect everything to everything else. So interoperability, operational testing and evaluation, an instrument to do command and control, training associated. The first, I don't like to use the word obstacle because we overcame that obstacle, was a cultural approach. This is mine, I take my decisions, and I don't want you to interfere with my decisions. We realized that that was a huge showstopper to effectiveness. We also paid a high price tag in operations for that narrow perspective of employment in the of all the instruments of power. So our leadership has gone through a renewal process, through a mindset shift. And what I say is a slogan is not coming from young kid or from me, it's coming from our chief of staff. If our chief of staff says, I wanna have an Air Force 5th generation that understands the problem associated with the technological aspects, the doctrinal aspects, and everything associated to generate effects, I think it's a great sign. So I'm very, very glad of how the entire force and my own leadership embraced this challenge and made it their own challenge to overcome cultural boundaries and be effective in multi-domain. I'm not saying everything is ideal, don't get me wrong, but at least we recognized that we need to understand that joint is the future. Over. And if I can take also this opportunity to thank you, the Network College, for.
Yeah, yes. Mauricio, you don't have the mic? Oh, okay. We lost you. Mauricio, can you hear me?
I hope you didn't lose me when I was answering the question. I apologize if I went mute. I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Peruvian Air War College. Thank you very much for this opportunity to the Italian Air Force on behalf of my Chief of Staff and my leadership. I think we have a great story of relationship between the two countries, and that is for a reason. So thank you. Thanks for you personally for the close coordination, for the contents, the agenda, and to make this happen. It was an honor, a privilege to me.
Thank you for your kind words, Mauricio. And now with the Q&A station over, I'm glad to announce the final words from the Peru Air War College Commandant, Major General Antonio Garcia Falkenhayn. Good morning, sir.
Morning. Will you hear me, please?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. This year remarks the 75th anniversary of the Peru Air War College. As such, we're commemorating the milestone with great conference about the Air Force domains, which the air, cyber, and space. This morning we had an outstanding talk from Lieutenant Colonel Mauricio de Guda about the challenge and capabilities for air power effectiveness in future environments, the Italian Air Force perspective. Mauricio, you showed mastery on the topics presented today. Moreover, you accept our expectations regarding the challenge and capabilities of air powers. We appreciate you accept our invitation and thank you very much for your outstanding talk. I invite you to join me next Tuesday 14, which I am sure will be as enlightening and inspiring as Mauricio's lecture today. Okay, everybody have a good day. Thank you very much and good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your nice words. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So with the words of our commandant, we conclude today's academic meeting, and we are invited to the next conference on Tuesday, the 14th at 8 a.m. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.